welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. In today's vid I am going to be taking you through my full upper body workout. So as always, I'm starting out with a banded warm-up before I go into any of my exercises. It's really important to warm up before your session as it helps prep your body for exercise, it helps with flexibility and mobility, and it also helps with reducing injury risk. So for this warm-up I did some banded pull-aparts, some shoulder dislocations, and then I did some around the world. And this just really got the blood flowing, got my muscles and joints nice and warmed up so that when I started lifting everything felt smooth. So like I say, this is a full upper body workout and I started out with training back, and my first exercise was a lat pull down. So I am leaning back ever so slightly, but that does not mean that I am swinging. You really want to avoid using momentum to bring the bar down. As you bring the bar down, you want to think about driving those elbows down towards your sides. On the way back up, you want to keep the movement nice, slow and controlled, and you also want to avoid locking your elbows out at the top. And it's also really important to fully extend your arms at the top of the movement to get that really big stretch throughout your lats. And then my next back movement was a bent over row. So I've got my feet shoulder width apart, I am gripping the bar just outside the knees, I've got a slight bend in the knee, and I'm also hinging forward at the hips like a deadlift. And then keeping my back nice and neutral, I'm driving the bar back with my elbows, bringing the bar to my lower ribs. And then it was time to move on to some shoulders, so I went in with a shoulder press. So I bring my elbows in front of me ever so slightly to avoid them flaring out to the sides. And I also have my wrists stacked over my elbows and I have my palms facing inwards ever so slightly. And then when I press the dumbbells up, I am, as always, making sure that I am not locking my elbows out at the top of the movement, and I am also avoiding banging the weights together at the top. And then on the way back down, I bring the dumbbells to just around shoulder height and then press back up again and repeat. And then the next shoulder exercise that I went in with were some lat raises, which look so easy, but they are so deceiving. They are absolutely brutal. So I have a slight bend in the knee, a slight bend in the elbow, and I'm making sure that my shoulders are relaxed and not shrugged up. And then I'm using my elbows to drive the dumbbells out to the sides, stopping at around shoulder height and bringing them back down. And then it was time to move on to a chest movement, so I went with a incline bench press. This video was filmed whilst I was still pregnant and I just can't cope with how cute my bump looks. I just miss it so much. So very similar to a shoulder press, I've got my palms angled for comfort and I've also got my wrists stacked over elbows. And then I'm pushing up through the elbows, avoiding locking them out at the top, and then I'm bringing the weight back down to my upper chest level. And then for my final exercise, I went in with some bicep curls and I did these on the cable. For bicep curls, you want to make sure that your elbows are tucked into your sides at all times. You really want to avoid your elbows moving or coming away from your sides, as that takes away the tension off your biceps. And that was everything exercise-wise for this session. So now it's time to go on to some cool down stretches. So I went in with a bicep stretch. So I've just got my palm resting on the squat rack. You can use the wall, a bench or anything like that. And my arm is in line with my shoulder. And then I'm turning and angling my body away from where my hand is. And you should feel a nice big stretch across your bicep. And then I went in with a tricep stretch, so lifting my arm straight above me and dropping my palm back towards my back. I am then using the opposite arm to pull on the elbow and you'll feel a nice big stretch across your tricep. And then I moved on to a chest stretch, so I am standing tall, got a neutral stance, and I am just cupping my hands together and bringing them behind my back, and you'll feel a nice big stretch across your chest. And then lastly, I went in with a shoulder stretch, so I'm just bringing one arm straight across my chest and using the opposite arm to hold my forearm in place. And that feels really nice across the shoulders. And that is everything for my full upper body workout routine. So thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next video.